Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. Today's album review is on Borghesia's 1989 album, Escorts and Models. For the life of me, I could not find this vinyl in my collection. I always put the record here, so I anybody who's watching has an idea of what's being reviewed, but I could not find that record, and I couldn't find my DAF album too. So I was going to do that review today too, and I can't find that album. They must be together because it's in my EBM collection. I can't find a few EBM records right now. But anyways, yeah, this is the Borghesia is a Slovenian band, EBM band slash industrial band from the early 80s. They roughly started in like 1982, and this is I'm reviewing their sixth album called Escorts and Models. Obviously, the sound is very EBM, but it also is fairly groundbreaking for the time. In some ways, I mean, it is kind of an evolution of Throbbing Gristle or Chris and Cozy, or but it is a little bit ahead of the time as far as like I have a Nitzareb record up there just as I put that one up today, but it's kind of a couple years before Nitzareb, and it reminds me a little bit of them, maybe a touch of Front 242, but but a little bit more abstract, a little bit more raw. Um, yeah, very much. I wouldn't say very much more raw, but it's definitely it's got a little bit of kind of a darker atmosphere for sure. Uh, what else? What else? There's a little bit of rock on here too. There's at least one track that has some guitars on it, um, which is interesting. My favorite two tracks on here is "Am I" and "Naked Lunch," which are the first and the third songs. I also really like "Rugged City" and APR. Those are my four favorite tracks from this album. Um, there's a little bit of vocoder in here. You know, there's some interesting sound design in here. With like some glass breaking. In track number 5 in Rugged City, or the motorcycle sound effects in Naked, Uniformed, and Dead. Heavy guitars also on that track is pretty cool. It is kind of cinematic in a way with track number 4, which is Tuxedo, but it's a little darker. Um, there is a little bit of, Borghesia, the name is sort of Italian, I believe, so it makes sense. There's a little bit of Italo disco sound in here as well. When I think of like track number 2 in Black, or Naked Lunch, they sort of have a little bit of a Italo disco sound in there. Um, it's a pretty consistent track. I don't think anything's over the top fantastic. I don't think anything's below good. Like, it's all right in the 2.5 to 3.5 stars per track, in my opinion, right in between middle of the road good and on the low side of very good. The first track, Am I, is my favorite, 3.5 stars. In Black, it's almost electro too. On Am I, it almost has like an electro vibe, which is pretty cool too. 3.5 stars. In Black, I give 2 3/4. It's a fun song. It's got like saxophone in it, and which is kind of interesting. Like, who took saxophone into industrial music? Like, it's just kind of it's different. 2 3/4 stars. Naked Lunch, 3.25 stars. Really catchy. Tuxedo is kind of a break in the album, kind of a little bit atmospheric. For the most part, I think it's the instrumental. 2.25 stars. It is my least favorite though. Rugged Cities, I like 3.25 stars. Strong track. Naked, Uniformed, and Dead, I was really close to 3 stars. I gave it 2 3/4. APR, 3 stars. Beat and Scream, tied for my least favorite, along with Forgot, the last track. 2.25 stars for both. So I do have 3 songs that are 2.25 stars. So those are the low ones, but 5 tracks in the good range, four tracks in the very good range. Brings the overall album to 25.25 stars divided by 9. 2.77. So I give it a 67 out of 100, right in the almost on the high side of good, close to being very good, but it's probably a song and a half away, in my opinion. But yeah, I think it's a solid album. I think Borghesia is one of the probably well respected, but sort of on this, I suppose, on the lesser side. You really have to be an industrial to really know the body of their work. I'm still, I think I found them probably like 15 years ago, and I have a couple of their albums, but there's a couple of albums that I need to check out, and that's what's great about doing this program is I can pick some bands and kind of finish listening to their discography that I haven't got around to yet. I have so much music, and I listen to so much different styles of music. There's probably everything. There's probably something in every genre where where it's even stuff that I have that I haven't even fully gotten to understanding, because I like to spend a lot of time with releases. Excuse me. I like to spend my time with music and listen to it for a week or two, before I file it away, or or even sometimes I might even listen to it once or twice and sort of put it somewhere in my record collection where I'm like, okay, well, I need to go back to that and finish that. So there's always like stuff in artists where I even really like their music, and there's still albums that I haven't got around to checking out. It's just, again, there's so much music out there, and even when you say you're gonna come back to it soon, and you find something else and you start listening to that, and you forget about the other stuff, and then you come back around to it. It's just, that's the great thing about being so well rounded. The more well rounded you are in music, the more things and avenues you need to check out, and lesser known stuff, and the origins of the style, and the lesser known, and that's kind of fun about digging. And Borghesia was a nice find that I found like 15 years ago, like I said, and well respected, but a lot of people don't know them, especially in America. Even if you're into industrial music, I don't see them get name checked a lot, like other popular names. But Escorts and Models. Don't have a lot to say about it. Pretty straightforward, raw kind of EBM. Not too great, not too bad. Right in the middle of good. I do really respect the electronics and the production and stuff like that, and it is fairly groundbreaking for, well, not this one, but them as in general. But I like the rawness of the sound too, and I probably gave it a couple extra points because it's 277s around 65, and I gave it a couple extra points for 67. So I wouldn't say it's on the road to be very good, but it's not really an album that necessarily will grow on you either. Like once you hear it a couple times, like you pretty much get the gist of it. You're not going to find too much additional in there. You know, I don't even really think it becomes a more catchy album after you play it, which happens a lot with industrial music for me, because I either really like it right away, or I think it's pretty good, or I think it's okay. There's not too much industrial I don't like unless it's really like cheesy or over the top, or like kind of just not my speed. Like KMFDM is, I probably shouldn't say that, but they're not really my speed. Just for an example, but I haven't really got to check out to their music, so I think probably one of these days I'll have to get like a KMFDM record and see if I like any of the music on there. But I always feel like when I hear stuff that is just way over the top, and I don't know, I like the different sounding industrial music. But what was I saying? But yeah, there's I tend to like, I don't know if really any industrial really grows on me. Like, oh, I really liked it, and then I love it like 10 years, 15 years later. I don't know if the style, it's pretty much straightforward, and I can get what I can get out of it really fairly quickly. Some of there's some stuff like this that sort of does grow on you a little bit more in the long term as far as like how ahead of the time it was, if it is, because sometimes the the electronics and stuff like that, they kind of like, oh, well, they sounded like that back in 1989. Well, that's pretty unusual because now they're kind of trying to sound like that, and they were already kind of doing that in 1989. But you can go back further for Borghesia in 1982 and some of their early stuff. Then it's even more apparent that it's like, well, that's pretty ahead of the time for what was going around, and so you kind of it kind of lends itself to becoming a little bit more respected as time goes on. But for the most part, if it's pretty straightforward industrial, I'll kind of get an idea if I like it or I love it right away. I do that with most industrial bands anymore. So I don't know if any of these will necessarily. A lot of times, EBM or industrial get better after. Sometimes, like with like catchier stuff, like more poppy stuff, it grows on you, right? It kind of that's the thing with pop music is the more you hear it, the more it's played. You kind of get in tune with it and you like it. But I don't know if you get the same sort of enjoyment as you do with music that you love. And when you hear that, it's kind of a different thing. I always relate it to like a radio jingle. If you hear a radio jingle, like I don't know. There's so many like insurance car commercials, like what's the one with the animal? Um, it's like the ostrich or whatever. It's like the yellow federal or like that has such um, a catchy theme song for the ads. But it's kind of the same thing. Like that gets really catchy, but you're not going to listen to that. That sometimes that's the way pop music gets, and the more you listen to it, the more catchy it gets. But something like this is a little bit more on the deeper side or darker side or dancier side. I don't know if it grows on people as much as it will. So I think with industrial music in general, you get an idea pretty quickly if you like it or you may not. Compare from going from song to song. That's not too extreme to like that, but a little bit more so than pop music, I would imagine. It does for me, anyways. But yeah, 67 out of 100 for Borghesia's Escorts and Models. Curious if you know this album and what you would rate it. All right, thanks so much.